joining us on the show today. Arnab, great to have you with us. How are things moving? What's the pace of recovery as per what you see? And on ground, how far are we from reaching those normalcy levels?
Yes, quarter one was a washout, and as you all know, we hardly did any business in April. May, June was better, but there has been a very sharp recovery since quarter one. Quarter two, we have grown by about 17%, as you know, last year, vis-a-vis last year. And so far, October, November looks to be maintaining the same kind of momentum overall.
The incremental order uptick as well across two-wheelers, PVs, LCVs, you have a stronghold in all of those segments.
Yeah, the passenger segments have done really well. The first to take off was the two-wheeler segment based on, of course, people are talking about pent-up demand, but it is genuine demand from rural and semi-urban areas, which has helped the two-wheeler growth. People are actually using two-wheelers to commute even distances of 50, 60 kilometers, shunning the ST buses. So usage of tire has gone up. The sale of vehicles have also gone up in the smaller towns in two-wheelers. Next came the passenger ones. I think it was mid of quarter two, around in end July, August, when the car tire sales started picking up. Maybe because they were all locked into garages in the urban areas. A lot of tire work was to be done, which is the pent-up demand. And here also in urban areas, people have started using their personal vehicles much more often than shared mobility. So the tire usage has gone up, and there has been demand surge in demand of the commercial vehicle tires as well. Commercial vehicles were doing well in quarter one as well, transporting essential commodities and grains and all the important merchandise, and that has come to normal level as well by quarter two and quarter three. So all three segments are doing well at this present time, and because of our channel reach, we have the highest visible reach of channel, especially in two-wheelers. We have been able to pick up this demand first and capitalize on it. So can't complain.
Naturally. What about the replacement market as well? What are the trends that you're seeing on that front?
As I said, right up to the festival season, we are almost in the middle of it or the end of it. The demand has been pretty good. And this is not pent-up demand. This is genuine demand of people buying cars, people replacing their tires. People actually have started moving around quite a bit. They are taking their cars to have short vacations outside the country. So usage of personal vehicles, because of reasons mentioned before, and because people have started venturing out, has gone up, and therefore tire usage has gone up. Therefore, the need to maintain tire, the service tire, to make them to align, balance the tire, to buy new tires. So demand is up genuinely because of higher usage of personal vehicles, both in rural India and in urban India. And vehicle movements are normal. There have been import curbs also, as you are aware, which has helped reflect the total demand onto people like us who have invested a huge sum of money in setting up factories. We have a big factory ramping up in Chennai for passenger vehicle tires, a big factory ramping up at Nagpur for two-wheeler tires, a big factory ramping up at Halol for TBR tires. So utilization of capacity has also sped up because of this reason.
Mr. Banerjee, if you have to, let's say, give us a sense of what are you getting from auto companies in terms of how much are they ready to commit for the future business and future orders, how far is the visibility for you?
Well, when we talk about, I guess you're talking about auto OEMs, right? So there are the heavy vehicle manufacturers who are still slow to take off, and the requirement there is of tires is low. They are taking time to ramp up. The BS6 had coming to the industry. The prices had gone up. The consumers are adjusting towards that. So buying of new vehicles is still slow in the commercial space. As far as the two-wheeler space is concerned, I think it took off the fastest. There was huge spurt in the marriage season. There was huge spurt because people wanted the commuter bikes were being used as business vehicles also for the small traders in small towns and villages. So that demand is genuine. We have to see what happens after the festive season in two-wheelers. As far as car demand is concerned, there has been a spike in smaller car demand in the smaller towns mostly, also in the larger towns. So the visibility, if you ask about, then there will be a slow uptick in the commercial vehicle segment now. People will have to replace the old vehicles, old trucks. But it will be slow and gradual. And we are going to wait and watch whether the demand and the growth rate flattens a little or still sustains in the passenger side. However, what we understand is that production will be high even in the months of November and December. Usually it is low, but it will be high because their inventories are pretty much depleted. So if that's the case, we can expect a strong production run for the next couple of months or 3 months or right up to March as well.
A better scenario for the company, the demand of new tires or demand of replacement tires? Where do you get more pricing power?
Well, pricing and margins have always been higher in the replacement segment, which is the aftermarket segment. So, and bulk of our business, if you see the business mix as we declared in our quarterly result, that is also strongest in the replacement segment. So the replacement segment share has been very high in half one. It will moderate a little in half two because the OEM business is now coming up, especially in the passenger segment. But the OEM has got strategic importance for us. It's not just about the margins. They push us to really deliver technologically advanced tires, let's say for low rolling resistance. This is just an example. So we enjoy those challenges, and it's a must for us to participate in the OEMs. Also, about 35 to 40% of the customers' passenger segments blindly replace their tires, what has been fitted in the OEM. So it is a natural trial generating mechanism for us. So both segments are strategic, but margin-wise replacement always has been better.
Have you managed to replace in the international market any of the Chinese suppliers? Because globally the China plus one strategy is there. I was looking at your data, 13% comes from exports. Do you see that changing significantly now that the world is trying to move manufacturing away from China?
There could be a big opportunity coming up across the world, especially in Europe and US, where there's a sort of vacuum which requires new tire brands from new sources to satisfy their consumer demands. So the question that you asked and the answer to that is a definite yes. And we have to be extremely agile to meet the different quality requirements in those countries. We cannot export Indian tires to Europe and succeed. It has to be built with local insight and marketed in keeping local sensitivities in mind, which we are already doing in Europe and succeeding initially. We are not present so much in the US market, so we are looking at the US market as well. And yes, it's a big opportunity that we can perhaps capitalize on.
Okay, just to wrap it up from our side, the auto industry is worried about what the future is in terms of EV disruption. But can I safely assume for the tire industry, nothing disruptive will happen, whether it is a combustion engine driven car or electric car, tires will still be required and the same tires can be replaced even if it's electric car?
Disruption won't happen, but change would happen because the same tires cannot run well on an electric car. The tire has to be completely redesigned to elongate the battery life. The rolling resistance of the tire has to be much lower. The tire has to be designed for higher torque for startup. The tire has to be, you will have no engine noise. So the entire noise will come from the contact of the tire from the road. So we have to reduce the noise component of the tire. So a big change in tire engineering. But I mean, you won't have a rubber tire replaced by some other tool. So that way disruption is not going to happen. But we are completely gearing up for these new technologies so that we can service the EV vehicles as and when they populate the Indian roads.
Electric vehicles are there. What is the update in India? Are you getting a sense that in the next 2-3 years we will actually see EVs in India? Because you're the perfect guy, because you knows what auto companies are demanding and what auto companies are telling you to do. So I always call tire companies to be the first indicator of the trend.
I can tell you what we are doing. We are preparing for EV vehicles in a very big way on all the criteria we just mentioned, on noise, on rolling resistance, on high torque handling, so on and so forth. I can also tell you that all auto companies are on to EV development. That much is assured. But then finally the consumer will decide. I mean, the government can give a lot of socks. The technologies will take time to mature. But if you give me a car, a petrol version at let's say 5 lakhs and a similar kind of car at 10 lakhs, then how many consumers are going to buy the EV vehicle is really the question. So finally, as in all markets, in all categories, the consumer is the king. The consumer will decide when EV will be adopted in the country. And then there's the whole ecosystem of charging. When is that going to come up? How convenient will it be for me to drive out a car and getting it charged if I run out of charge? So those are things that are still unclear at best. But effort is on. Everybody wants to develop a car. Everybody has cars in different stages of development. Tire industry and CEAT is completely prepared to service those kind of cars. How fast it will be adopted will be decided by consumers and no one else.
All right, Mr. Banerjee, really appreciate your time. Thank you for very candidly sharing your thoughts on CEAT, where the company is headed and where the industry is headed, and the last bit on how auto industry or the auto ancillary industry is preparing themselves for the adaptation towards EVs. Let's take a break with the news that today, well, it's not a great day for Nifty, but it's not a bad day considering that we are now in that long weekend, and for US also it's Thanksgiving weekend. The volumes actually are surprisingly strong.